Hello, this is As the World Burns. I'm your host, Randall Burns. It is May 2nd, 2021. Thank you for joining me. And please do feel free to make comments and like this video. It helps me a lot if you do like it, and it gives me some feedback, and I appreciate all of that. Today our topic is the book Principles by Ray Dalio. This is part of a series where I'll be discussing some of my books that I've read recently that I've enjoyed and that are related broadly to the topics of this channel. Now, Principles is about Ray Dalio's personal history and his management style that he used to build Bridgewater and Associates, the largest hedge fund firm around. Now, the first thing that struck me after I read it was Ray Dalio strikes me as much more a whole person than other very wealthy people that I've had a face-to-face relationship with, which includes several billionaires that I've actually spent time alone with in a room or met socially. And Ray Dalio strikes me as a little different. He strikes me, at least the impression that he gives with his writing is he's a pretty traditional, family-oriented Italian man with a range of interests that goes beyond making money, including, for example, he talks about playing jazz. His father was a professional jazz musician, and he still talks about playing jazz for fun. And he talks about having a family life. Now, he also talks about having some health problems, but not, but he's in his 70s now, so he's not a physical basket case by any imagination. He's done reasonably well on that front also. Now, one thing that I'm struck by in his story is he's affected the material culture of the United States in a way that many of us that have been around will remember. For example, one of the stories he tells is about a deal that he cut that enabled McDonald's to produce their chicken McNuggets. Now, I'm not a fan of McDonald's foods, but I can remember when this happened, and I didn't realize that it involved a set of not obvious business deals and financial arrangements to actually make it happen. This was a side of the story that I never thought about before. But Ray Dalio was there, and that's part of his story. And it gives you a little different look on the world around you than you'd have otherwise. And I thought it was interesting. Now, part of the story of Ray Dalio is he's an advocate of what he calls radical transparency and an idea meritocracy. Now, I have my own comments on this that I may make at a later point in more depth. I think the book deserves a second reading at some point. But I have been familiar both with environments that promote radical transparency and communication and meritocracies that are very focused. When you're trading prediction markets or engaging in a prediction site like Metaculus, that is a radical meritocracy. And it's a meritocracy built on different lines than people are traditionally thinking of. Communication, when we talk about radical transparency, I've been involved in focused communications groups, sometimes called encounters groups. And those sometimes do involve an expectation of transparency that is beyond the typical. And so I found it very interesting that Ray Dalio somehow built a successful business organization based on these principles, based on principles that I've seen applied on a small scale, but not on anything like the business scale that he seems to have done with Bridgewater. And I want to learn more about the company as a result, and more about it from sources other than just Ray Dalio himself. his story of persistence is inspiring. He almost lost the company at one point and went through something that a lot of other people would have become, I think, much more discouraged about. And I say this from my own perspective that I've had instances where I let things get me discouraged or I had to divert myself. And he kept going along his same path, and it actually paid real dividends in the long run, and he did very well with it. And that story is inspiring. He does not glamorize his path. I think he's trying to be as upfront about it as he can be. And I think that in his case, the path is more inspiring basically because of the balance in his personal development. He is not as specialized as a lot of people would be. And I think that lack of specialization enabled him to go further. I'm including a link to a more traditional review. I wanted to discuss this in part because of what it meant for me and what I think it may mean for me. And I will probably revise this with a longer review at some point, but I wanted to get this out sooner rather than later. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I appreciate your interest. Likes are appreciated. Suggestions for future episodes are appreciated. And I look forward to hearing from you. You take care. This is Randall Burns signing out.